Welcome to a new episode of Outside the Panels with your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes.
Welcome everyone to an episode of Outside the Panels. I'm your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes. And by now, you know that I love comics that just aren't about the Cape and Cowl gang, right? You also know that I love a good Kickstarter. So why don't I mix the two together and bring on another fantastic guest with another fantastic all ages book to talk about? It is the ultra talented writer, producer, now comic book creator. Is there anything this man can't do? It's Jerry Carita. Jerry, how's it going?
It's going really well. It's quite a build-up. And can I just say, I really like the opening credits on the show. I feel like a lot of people online kind of skip that part of it now because everyone's like the common on the street wisdom is that people don't pay attention past like a few seconds. So I love that there's like a build-up to this.
Yeah. We have theme tunes for everything.
Honestly,
if you think that's good, wait till 20 minutes after this point. I put an advert in for one of our other shows. That'll knock your socks off.
I'm excited for it, man. I'm excited for it.
Well, enough about the advert. Let's talk about you, Jerry. TV writer, producer. You've worked on Disney, Netflix, Discovery, all these great channels with great content. What is it that made you think, you know what, I'm going to write a comic book?
Well, you know what it is? I did a TV show about Comic Book Shop, and I just fell in love with them. I honestly, when I was a kid, the thing that I was geeky about was TV shows. It wasn't comics. I never had that moment where someone was like, "Here's a comic," and you pick it up and you look at it and you realize you found your people. Yeah, like that, like the beam of light from down. So I didn't, so I just didn't. I didn't really know about comics as much as a kid. It wasn't until I was 30, I was working on a show called Comic Book Men about Kevin Smith's comic shop in New Jersey.
It's the Secret Stash, right? New Jersey.
That's it. Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash. I was working on the first season of that show. And
I love that show.
It's a great show.
Let me tell you about that show. That show gave me the confidence to walk into my local comic book shop and say, hey, the price you got for these books, I'll give you X instead.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it is. It's like that show was so much fun to make. The cast is like, it's like a real thing. They really hung out in that shop. They really worked there. Those guys were like Brian and Walt were really friends of Kevin's from when he was a kid. Walt was the one who handed Kevin his first comic book and said, "Read this," and Kevin was like, had that moment. And so I got to have that moment with Walt like years later, and it was a lot of fun to work on. And just listening to them all talk about their love of growing up with comics and all those stories and stuff, it kind of made me fall in love with the medium. And I started reading. The first comic book I read was on set. It was The Walking Dead. That was the first comic I ever really read.
All right, okay. So I'm going to put a pin in that. I'm going to come back to that in a second.
Yeah.
Right, because that's an interesting point. Yeah. How hard was it to get into? Because I go into my local comic shop. I'm lucky. I have a couple. I have a Forbidden Planet chain, and I have a little independent called the Dark Knight. It's a play on the Dark Knight, but it's in a town called Darlington. So the Dark Knight, clever. Shout out to Stephen at Dark Knight. He's just had an operation, so get well soon, my friend. I will promise I'll pick up my orders soon. Don't worry. I go into comic book shops and I kind of walk around and whatever, and I hear like geeks just go to like the minute detail, of which I can do with a drop of a hat. And I think to myself, this is so hard for people who have no idea what they're talking about to kind of get into that. So did you face that when you kind of working on Comic Book Men to see how not estranged, but how emphatic, there you go, how emphatic fandom can be when it comes to comic books?
I would say I didn't personally. I think Kevin was the face of that show. And so we, as the people making the TV show, we weren't all as big comic book readers as the characters in the show. And so we definitely learned a lot about the fandom and how, particular they can be. And if there was ever anything that slipped into a show that didn't quite make sense, Kevin would hear about it. And then we would hear about it. you know. So that's kind of the way it would go. If we got some detail wrong, if in an edit, you know, in post, we accidentally said the wrong person played Catwoman in the wrong like old episode of the, you know, the Batman 66 or something like that, we would hear, like Kevin would hear about it on Twitter, and then we would hear about it after that.
Oh.
So we learned
heads would roll.
Yeah, no, we would learn very quickly to get the details right, and that was hard, and it was good. It was a good learning experience, and it's like that with anything. If you're making a TV show about people who build trucks and cars, if you do something where the mechanical part of it doesn't make sense, you hear about it from the fans of that thing. So you know, that kind of fandom exists for all those things.
That's absolutely right. I love Fast and Loud. I'm not a huge mechanic by any stretch of the imagination, but you sit me in front of a gas monkey garage and I'm like, okay, let's go. I have no idea what they're talking about, but it looks like they're having fun. So you know.
That's it. Yeah, but if you get those details wrong, you hear about it. People get really mad. They're like, you know, that kind of an engine doesn't fit inside of a 1968 GTO. They get really upset. You know, you know, and it's but it's good. And you learn as a, you know, I do reality television, and so every show I work on is a slightly different group of people doing something different. And I've gotten to spend time in Alaska and you know, like the wilds of like Canada, and like dealing with a reptile company and alligator hunters and like car mechanics and tattoo artists, and you know, I've learned so much about every one of those things.
That sounds all well and good, but to be fair, you want below decks, right? Where you can go on the boat in the Mediterranean. That's the payday. And that's what I want. Yeah, send me there.
That's the main one. That's the goal.
Right.
That's the goal. It's always like, can we do a show about cruises where it's just kind of chill? Like, just do a chill show about TV producers on beaches. That'd be great.
Yeah,
that'd be a great show.
Go nuts.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So let's get to your book.
Sure.
You said the first book you read was a Walking Dead book. Now, if it was the first issue of The Walking Dead, you're in for some shocks. However, from that point, you have then created an all ages book. How do you get from possibly one of the most hardcore indie books that saved Image Comics to something like this?
I mean, the short answer is it's not the first book I created, so there's an evolution there. You know, a lot of the other comics that I read are not all ages stories, although there are a few all ages ones that I love. But the short answer is my son, who was 6 years old at the time, walked into my office and basically pitched me this idea. And you know, so
so let me just make a note of this. Jerry stole from his son.
Absolutely.
No one's. Once you see it on the internet, it's there forever, Jerry. I'm just saying, mate. It's just there forever.
Well, it's a good thing we're recording it, so go back and just cut that part out. Just take that part out. Hang on, let me send you a message in the chat here to cut that part out. Hold on.
I don't see a message. I don't know what's going on there. Anyway, all right. So it's a family affair.
Family affair. Yeah.
You have this. Your son has this idea. And how's it go from there? Then you just think, wow, this is great. Let's do it.
That's kind of what happened. You know, I was sitting in my office. This was 2 years. I swear, like, it was this idea came together literally, like, I would say, like, more than half of the basic concept just came out of my son's mouth in one conversation. Cool. And then after that, we kind of bounced ideas back and forth and just had fun creating a bunch of characters. And then once I had all that and kind of like the world, you know, that we created down like in my head, I was able to create a story around it, you know. But that's what really happened. I was sitting in my office. This was 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago. It was the day that Midjourney, one of the AI art things that's like the beginning of the end of times, like one of those things, had just come out and was like accessible to people for the first time. And I think like everybody else, I was checking it out and trying to figure out, is this the end of civilization? You know, is Judgment Day right around the corner? And I was messing around with it, and my son walked into the room. I don't use AI art in any of my work. I just want to put that out there.
Well,
but I was messing around with it.
I'm with you on this AI stuff. You know, I write for Comic Crusaders, and a couple of times people have sent me reviews. I'm like, is this really you? And it's like, well, what you do is you put some keywords in AI, it produces a document, then you run it through a sifter, check to make sure it sounds like a human being, then you add some words so it makes it sound like you, then you run a spell check. I'm like, dude, just write 600 words about the book and that's it, you're done. Save yourself
it's a lot easier.
Right?
It's a lot easier, and also just like the creating things like that. I feel like the creative thing has to come from a person with a soul, and I'm not at the point in the Judgment Day timeline where I think that machines might have souls. I think you got to get 3 or 4 movies deep with Arnold Schwarzenegger before you start to wonder: is he actually like a person? He's learning. He
Well,
seems nice, you know.
as I've got the machine as my nickname, I'm going to take a little bit of offense at that, but I'll just let that slide. Don't worry.
That's fair. That's fair. But anyway, I was messing with Midjourney. He walked in the room and he saw what I was doing and he started asking me for things. He was like, "Can it do a Spider-Man monkey?" I was like, "Sure, let me check this out, Spider-Man monkey." And then he said, "What about a minion wizard?" I'm like, "All right, minion wizard," and it pooped out a little minion wizard. And then he said, "What about a pirate bear?" And it made a pirate bear, and it was like really bad, especially when that thing, all that stuff first came out. The face was all like deformed and weird. It was scary. It was like a silhouette of this monstrous bear, and he's afraid of
the
bears.
walking bear.
The walking bears, yeah. Hold on, let me write that while we're stealing ideas for good comic books. Hold on, walking bears. Let me write that down. So he was just kind of staring at this ugly, weird thing on the screen, and he just started telling me about it. And he goes, "His name's Captain Grizzly." Literally, the first comment, Johnny. I wish I could say like that. I had like more to do with this. It's embarrassing how good he is at this already, and how much better than me he just wasn't naturally. Like this story just fell out of his face. Like all I had to do was write part of it down.
Cool.
But he was like, his name's Captain Grizzly. He's the captain of a pirate ship full of bears. And I was like working on something else at that point. And I was like, yeah, pirate bears. It's hilarious. And I just kept on. And then he's like, no, Dad, they go around looking for treasure. And when they find it, it looks like gold, but when they squeeze it, it's just wax and it's filled with honey. And when he said that, I was like, hold on, let me start taking some notes here. And then he just said it's called the Grizzly Crew.
All right.
And then from there we just started having fun bouncing ideas back and forth. And you know, like this is when I knew that he was already better than me. He said to me, he was like, "What a black bear? There's Captain Grizzly is a grizzly bear. There's a polar bear." We came up with a little backstory for the polar bear. And then he goes, "What about a koala bear?" And I said, you know, because I'm argumentative, I said, well, koalas are not really bears. They're just koalas. It's a marsupial. It's a totally other kind of animal. And he said, well, maybe he's young and he doesn't know that, and he wants to be part of the grizzly crew because he thinks he's really a bear because someone told him he was a bear. And I was like, that's perfect. And that's when I was like, how are you better at this already than I am? And like from there, you know, we came up with a villain, and I started writing an outline, and I that's kind of how I got to it. It was just me having fun with my son, and us coming up with what I think is a really fun story.
I have to say, for any litigious lawyer types who watch the show, credit is given to your son on your Kickstarter page.
So, absolutely. Yeah, I do. That whole story is on there. That whole story I just relayed to you is there.
All joking aside, you know.
Thank you.
Yeah, no Stan Lee, Jack Kirby stuff going on here.
I'll tell you, a lot of the people who've already backed it are family members who are just trying to support my son. And I think if his name wasn't on it, I think I would have a real bad you know, Thanksgiving would be really awkward. Yeah, Thanksgiving would be really awkward.
Bless, that's so cool. I think one of the charms of kind of what we're talking about here, with it being an all ages book, crafted by an all ages reader,
creative team.
Creative team is that it does lend itself, if one kid comes up with a story, then another kid is going to like it. You know what I'm saying? I always find it really hard when especially in some modern day comics where I see some old school writers writing teen books. I'm thinking, how are you doing this? This doesn't even read like, man. You know, it's like it doesn't fit, it doesn't jive. You know, you've missed the point somewhere along the line. And I think there has to be a level of genuineness to what you're trying to show. I think
you kind of have to have something in the story that appeals to your audience. And if you're looking to get in an audience of children, it has to be like something that they recognize. And so that's kind of what this is. It's a story. In the story, it takes place in a human world, so everyone isn't anthropomorphic animals, and it's a seaside village at first that's being attacked nightly by pirates. These actually scary pirates, and you know, the next night these kids can't go to sleep, so their parents start telling them a bedtime story, which is the Grizzly Crew.
All right, okay.
And then from there, the parents are kind of these unreliable narrators. So if you're a parent reading this with your kid, you're going to recognize a lot of the interaction and a lot of the storytelling where you kind of like tell your kid a story in the hopes that they'll just calm down and go to sleep at night. And then, from there, it's like dad is the first storyteller. So he starts telling the story about the Grizzly Crew to be like, we hired the Grizzly Crew. They're protecting us from those pirates. It's all good now. You guys can sleep. But as he's telling the story, he gets a little too into it and makes it a little too scary. And then mom has to come in and kind of redirect the story and make it more of a bedtime story again. And then she'll get too into a different part of it. And then dad has to come in and redirect it again. So, the story itself will take like twists and turns depending on who's telling the story. So parents will really, I think, like take to that. They'll understand that. And the rest of it it's all based on things kids are afraid of. Like my son's afraid of bears. So that's where this came from. Yeah, well, absolutely. My son's terrified of bears for some reason. He one time years ago was reduced to tears just at the vague idea that there were bears like around. Not that he saw one. There was nothing scary happen. Just like we were in a car driving through, a mountainous part of America, and my wife was like, "Are there bears around here?" And I was like, "Yeah, you won't see one, but there are bears around." And 5 minutes later, he was very upset.
I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to anyway. My kid brother, who's only a couple of years younger than me, when we were kids, he was scared of sharks because of Jaws.
Yeah.
Now I have to say, at the time, we lived about 3 hours away from the nearest beach.
Right.
So we're not getting attacked by sharks anytime soon. Well, I was reading this science fiction magazine. It was talking about Spielberg and George Lucas and stuff. And at the bottom, there was a really big picture of the shark from Jaws on the page, and there was a really small picture of E.T. So, like a good big brother, what did I said to my brother, "Hey, do you want to see a picture of E.T.?" He was like, "Yeah."
Right.
That was him not sleeping for a week.
Yeah. I mean that's all. That's kind of all it takes. So
yes, I was.
And so I think I hope kids will recognize that. I think it's like the stories about Jimmy is a young koala who joins the Grizzly Crew in this first issue. They tell him, "You're not really a bear. You can't be part of the crew." So he's he just stows away on the ship. That's Jimmy, and that's Captain Wolfheart, who's the main villain, the actually terrifying villain character that we created. The first pass at Captain Wolfheart kind of looked like Wile E. Coyote. And my son, who watches a lot of Looney Tunes, right away was like, no, that's a funny character. He should be scary. And so Nick Justice, who's the artist, redid Captain Wolfheart into this like gorgeous, terrifying Arctic wolf with a glass eye, and he's got a scar on his face. He's really terrifying, but it's a great character.
A glacier eye.
Yeah, there's a whole backstory about that too. That my son came up with. I wish I could take credit, but it's all about these things that kids are afraid of, and kind of Jimmy is an orphan, and we learn about his backstory, what happened to his family, and there's another character on the crew who is a young female black bear, and her name is Rosie, and the two of them become really good friends.
Cool.
They become kind of surrogate siblings.
I'm going to ask this question. I ask this question a lot every time I come across creators who work with all ages books. You and I are of an age where if you're into comic books, you're into comic books, and that was, well, maybe not you, not so much, but maybe definitely. Thinking back across the 30s. Well, I grew up in the 70s, man. 70s, 80s. I didn't need an all ages book to enjoy comic books. I just read comic books.
Right.
What do you think the attraction is of all ages books now in today's marketplace?
I think I mean, comics are kind of they're more of a thing now. They're kind of everywhere, and people know that there are mature comics. So I think the reason that there's kind of like age ranges in certain comics, it's because of that. It's because parents like to know that they're giving their kid an all ages book without having to read the book themselves. So if they know they're giving their kid something that isn't full of like super violence and boobs,
you've read Zenoscope, I see. Okay. Sorry, I know I haven't digged Zenoscope for a while, so apologies. I'll make up for it soon. All right, you know what? It's an interesting point. I was in again my local comic book shop, and the parents were buying the kid a Batman book, and I was like, "No, please don't buy that book. There's like too much of everything in that comic book. If you want a Batman book, go back 5 years, 10 years, buy something from the back issues. Don't buy that."
Yeah.
One.
I bought one of the original, like it's an original run. Once I got into comics, I went back and did all my homework. So I read all of like Chris Claremont's run on the X-Men.
Good
I
call.
read I went back and I did everything. And I did all I did the big indie books. I tend to gravitate more towards the indie books. So I did like Sandman, which I know it kind of was in the DC universe, but not really. So I read that.
It's DC's version of indie, isn't it? Really, to be fair,
Yeah.
Vertigo takes itself very seriously, and the hardcore Sandman fans are a different breed for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll drop my cousin is a comic book writer, and he's writing. He's James Tynion is my cousin, and he writes one of the new Sandman series. Yeah, I know.
So that's fine. I will speak later about getting James on the show. That's great.
That's fine.
I have a quick question about James Tynion then. Is there really 3 others of him beforehand? Is he like a clone? Is that why he says James Tynion the fourth?
He is James Tynion the fourth. Our shared great grandfather was James Thomas Tynion the first.
Oh, there you go.
That was our shared grandfather's father. Cool. So our grandfather was James Thomas Tynion, and his dad is JTT the third, and he's JTT 4.
JTT.
It's for real. It's not. It feels like a thing you'd make up, like as a part of a kid name, but it's for real.
It's just I asked the question because there's a film, as you will know, called Madness of King George.
Oh yeah.
In the UK, that's the Madness of King George VIII, and the kind of apocryphal story that goes with this when it went worldwide releases. Why is it in the States only called the Madness of King George? Because someone would ask, where are the other 7 films? So
no, that's smart.
So that's why they got changed.
Yeah,
allegedly, I mean, I didn't write it, I didn't make it up, but just saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like Tynion's work. I don't know I've pronounced it wrong again, but I'm British. That's what I do.
I do too.
Excellent. All right, so we've hit the 20-minute mark. So what we'll do is we will take a break for one of our other adverts. Should we have something that's going to blow your socks off? Where is it? Where?
The build up.
You know what? I think you should watch this advert, and I think you should make some notes because I think McFarlane would be interested in this.
Okay.
You ready?
Here we go. I love it.
Time for a crisis. There you have it, Crisis in the Toyverse. I'm sure the Grizzly Crew deserves the McFarlane range.
I love it. I don't know what that was for, but I love it.
Crisis in the Toyverse is our show about figures, basically. That's how it works. Bobo's our figure expert. He goes and unpackages. Don't all have a heart attack. Yes, he unpackages the figures. Yes, he plays with them. Yes, he probably loses the bits. What can I say? Crisis in Toyverse. Great show. I don't know what's happening, but it looks like someone is attacking the Enterprise.
That's the thing. That's good.
All right, excellent. So we saw some art earlier. Here's the bad guys.
There's the bad guy. That's our bad guy in the back there, Captain Wolfheart, the villain. And then on the lower right, 2 more bad guys. All the bears are good guys. And then and then down the bottom right, you've got our fox and our that was our Wile E. Coyote character. That was sort of the original Captain Wolfheart. And my son was like, no, he should be bigger and scarier. We were like, all right, we'll make him bigger and scarier. There he is.
It's kind of like the Transformers original jibe, where the bad guys are planes and the Autobots are cars, right?
Oh, is that what it was? That was the original idea there?
Well, Autobots kind of gives it away,
Yeah,
right?
I guess that's true. Yeah.
Can you think of a
Yeah.
non-car Autobot other than Jetfire?
No, I was just no. You're right. Yeah, I was just thinking through the villains are all planes and jets and stuff, like weapons of war. Cool.
Yeah, there, cool. It's like clever, isn't it? Crazy,
Yeah,
crazy how that
I
is. You have a Kickstarter going for this book. Is this your first Kickstarter, or have you Kickstarted?
Second one. The other one was for a book called Cicada Samurai, which I created
a
year ago.
Whoa!
We did this before.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah,
I remember Cicada. It was great.
Thank you. Cicada Samurai. I'm just now fulfilling that campaign as we speak. So the print files went to the printer in the last couple of days, and everyone will be getting their physical copies soon. If you didn't know, I'll send you a digital copy. I don't know if you got to see the book.
I appreciate
Absolutely.
that. I wish you'd said before the show. Now I feel like an idiot. Mind you, it was a while ago, and I have slept since. So
it was August or September of last year.
Yeah. Well, there's been a football season since then. The Dolphins almost did something, so I was like, sorry.
No,
you're New York, right? So the Jets,
I'm in New York. Jets, Giants. I'm not really a big American football or soccer.
That's the right thing to say. If you're a Jets fan and I'm a Dolphins fan, that's right. You don't like football. Just keep it like
that. That's fair.
All right, here we go. Kickstarter. Where we at? Let's change it to dollars. It is you ran $2,150 of a 2,500 goal. That is pretty damn good. 81 backers. Admittedly, 80 of them are your family members, apparently.
Probably, yeah. A good number of them for sure.
Yeah. Man, your family gets busy. No TV in your house. 6 days to go at the time of recording. I think that's a phenomenal achievement. You must be really pleased.
Thank you. I'm very happy. Yeah, I think that I've heard repeatedly that the young adult, not a young adult, but all ages stories don't do as well on Kickstarter. And it's definitely true. I think I've seen that. I've seen that myself, where things that are geared more towards all ages or kids are, you have to kind of set your goal a little bit differently.
Yeah.
It's less likely to kind of be a runaway success. When I did Cicada Samurai, that was the first one I had ever done, and I set my goal at the same. I think I had the same goal as this campaign, but I was at double. At this point in the campaign, I had doubled this money. So the support is just a little bit different, But,
a couple of questions spring to mind. What is it with you with animals? Cicadas and bears and foxes. What's that all about? It's like, what the hell? Are you trying to you want to work on nature programs? Is that what this is? I
mean, about? if I'm gonna do like a normal, like just people, I might as well write a TV show.
Fair enough.
I figure comics can do anything. That's the whole joy of them. It's like I can do anything in a comic book, so I might as well do anything in the comic book.
Where we at? Let's have a look at some covers. That's one we've looked at already.
So this one's Nick Justice. He's the interior artist. He also designed the characters with from the notes from me and my son.
Cool. You're right about Kickstarter not being all ages friendly. I love this. This one's great. I love the dynamic pose there. I love that.
This is Pablo Verdugo did this cover. He did I met him from the first campaign I ever worked on for Kickstarter was Billy the Kit, and it was for Blue Juice Comics, and Pablo did a cover for us. That was our favorite cover there.
I like that. I like the black and white element. What I was saying, so Kickstarters, I think, and this is a sweeping generalization, and I don't mean it to be quite as black and white as I'm going to make it sound, is that it seems to be a lot of NSFW on Kickstarter. And I get why. Without editorial control, you can go, I was going to say balls to the wall. That's kind of like an unfortunate pun there that I didn't really want to go all tits up on. Hey, there's another one.
That's good.
Yeah, here all day. Don't forget tip your waiter. So I think there is a freedom to tell the story that people want to tell, whether that be not suitable for work stuff, or whether it be superhero stuff, or whether it be all ages stuff. You're all vying for the same book, for the same moolah. And I think it's a very all ages is a crowded marketplace to start with.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure people would, from my experience, I don't think people look at Kickstarter for that.
Right, and that's I think what it is. I think people go to Kickstarter for the kinds of more fringe stories that they don't find in a store. You know, it's very hard these days for comic shops to take a risk on an indie book that's not going to come out consistently, that doesn't have already 12 issues lined up, that isn't at a big publisher, you know, that's also doing publicity. So, you know, I wouldn't expect to get a book like this into stores through a real publisher right off the bat.
I think you do yourself. I do think you do yourself a massive injustice. I think this book, from what I've seen, has the legs to, you know, get a publisher and really go for it. I think, you know, give this a year and this book is picked up somewhere for sure.
Oh, thank you.
Thank
you. I appreciate that. I'll definitely try for sure, but I just mean I don't think people come to Kickstarter for it. You know, they're coming here for more like LGBTQ representation stuff, like the kinds of things that you don't always find very easily in stores.
Yeah, that's a true point.
Yeah.
Here we have, this is the scares for the kids, the scares of all Blackbeard there. Yeah. Love that.
This is go ahead.
So I was going to say, I live in a town called Redcar, which is a seaside town now. So thanks for this. I'm going to not dream of pirates now. Brilliant.
Well, that was it. We want, you know, I told Nick when he was drawing it, I was like, I want the pirate to be legitimately scary, the kind of thing that would be in like a kid's nightmare. And so that's what it is. And so these kids now can't sleep. Dad comes in right away. His first instinct is go to sleep. You know, that's why he's yelling there in the middle.
That's what dads do.
Yeah, and then he realizes they're scared. Let me tell them a story. And it's like, you know, we hired the Grizzly Crew, so you guys can sleep now. No big deal. And you can tell from the bottom of that page the kids aren't really buying it.
Yeah, whatevs.
Come on, Dad. Like, get out of here.
Yeah. Let's have a look at what your pledges are. So $1 back because you love it. PDF. Love the fact, Jerry, you've got PDFs. I think I said this last time. Love PDFs because it helps out international orders.
Yeah, and that's why I've gone back and forth about PDFs, because I feel like once there are PDFs out there, they're shareable, you know, for free among people and easily piratable. And so I always think that if I was a larger publisher, I wouldn't want to necessarily pick something up that had a bunch of PDFs floating around already. But I've been instructed that I'm crazy and I don't have to worry about this kind of thing. So I'm less concerned about it, but it does definitely get, you know, people who are overseas where shipping, you know, if I want to ship something to Australia, it's like $40 for a single comic book, and that's crazy. So it does bring in readers from around the world.
I'm more than happy to chip in $5, $6 to get into a new Kickstarter for sure. I'm not happy having to pay $25 to get it shipped to me. You know, that's effectively $30, $31 for a comic book, and I'm like, you know, I want to help guys as much as I can, but the same token, I also think sometimes you creators, take a hit on the postage for some of this. You know, sometimes it is subsidized to get the book across the pond, and I don't want you. I want to see, if I'm spending $6, I want you to get the $6. I don't want you to get $3, and then a proportion of that go on the postage. So I think it works both ways. It's the economics of, I suppose, the comic industry right now. But I think a PDF for a Kickstarter is, I think it's a good way to get your product out there. It just means that when you do the trade, you've got to add more stuff in.
Which is fine. That's totally fine. So that's what I'll do. You know, I think when I get to the point where I have 5 issues of this, we'll do a trade. I'll figure out what the goodies are at that point.
Cool.
But the PDF is $6, and then any one of the 3 covers as trade dress are $10. So all 3 are the same price. And then you can get any one of those covers as a virgin cover if you want something a little more collectible. Those are $15. And then from there are discounts if you want to mix and match things that you want. So if you want, you know, two trade covers, you get a 10% discount from the price. If you want, you know, 2 virgin covers, it's I think also a 10% discount. You know, and it just keeps going from there. You can get, some people like to collect all the covers. You can get all 6 of them. That's a pretty steep discount as well. And then I have 2 retailer tiers that I worked really hard on in my other campaigns and other campaigns I've worked on that haven't been for books that I've written myself, I'll hear from retailers who'll tell me, this is the way our business works, and we really need like a big discount, otherwise it's not worth it for us. Like we can't sell this necessarily for what you're selling it for on Kickstarter. So they're both retailer tiers come with a 55% discount off the cover price. So if you do 10 copies, it only costs you $45 for 10 copies of the book.
Call me old school, but has the day gone by where you can rock up to a comic book store, say, dude, here's 20 copies of my comic book. It's sale or return. Just give me the profits and I'll come back in a month's time. And you take.
I think you can still do that.
Yeah, because that seems to me like the easiest way to go.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm just being naive. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think I'll do when I have the physical copies in hand. I'll do that. I have a few shops local to me in Brooklyn here in New York, and I'll definitely go into each of those with a pile of books and say, sell them for $5, and then whatever normal issue you sell for, and then let's split it.
Are you doing any cons, Jerry?
I don't have any big plans right now. I've been doing them. I had been doing them with Blue Juice Comics. I run tables for them sometimes. I'll probably do that again this year at Brooklyn Comic Con. And if I have, depending on how many of my own books I have in hand, I'll have some of my books in hand at Brooklyn Comic Con. Cool. But I think next year, 2025, is the year where I'll start to build kind of a ground game going to conventions.
Cool. Look at you using a football term. Check you out. What was I going to say? You should come over to the Thought Bubble in the UK.
Yeah, I'll try to.
Yeah. You can get what's this? Custom art. This is cool. I'm liking it. I love the space. We were just talking about space.
Oh yeah, it just came in. They're just bringing it back now. So Nick Justice, who's the artist on the book, almost all the add-ons are commissions from him. So if you back the campaign at any physical level, it unlocks all these options where you can order a 5x8 or an 11x17, pencil, ink, sketch, black and white, or a full color. And he'll do any character from cartoons, from comic books, any pop culture thing, as long as we're keeping it PG rated, because it is an all ages campaign. Yeah. And, Nick doesn't want his son walking in while he's drawing like really big boobs or whatever.
Yeah. And that was me going to ask for a fishnet covered Zatanna. Never mind. Is that the Grey Ghost?
Yeah. I think it's Spirit.
Allegedly, the Spirits are very similar in black and white. Some Bruce Timm inspired Batman.
Yep.
Yeah,
Nick's great. Nick did. I ordered. He does sketch covers too. I ordered 3 recently.
Yeah.
And so this is one I ordered from him. It's
you showed me something.
Man.
Hang fire. Let me make you big so people can see it.
Oh,
that's spot on, isn't it?
Yeah, he's great. So I got one of these. I got a Captain Marvel and I got a Captain America. Those are all my kids' 3 favorite Avengers.
Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel.
Carol Danvers, yeah. That's my daughter's favorite.
Just have to check, because there's like umpteen of the damn. You know what I'm saying? I like Carol Danvers. I'm probably the only bloke in the planet that likes Carol Danvers, but never mind.
I think she was great in the movies too. I think Brie Larson got a bad rap.
I agree. I think that it's a bit of real life color in how the fact is, you know what, it is just a movie.
Yeah.
Sorry about all that.
No worries.
Cool. So you've got 6 days to go. There's the Cicada stuff we were talking about earlier.
That's the other add-on. You can get a copy of Cicada Samurai, any of those covers. Which one was Walt Flanagan from Comic Book Men. One was done by Takashi Okazaki, who did Afro Samurai and is doing Star Wars Visions right now for Marvel. And then there are 2 by Mary Landro, who is the series artist on that.
I still love that. Just love how detailed it is. Cicada absolutely works. Absolutely makes me smile every time I see it. Spot on.
Good.
You have got some stuff going on, my friend. You are doing fantastically well.
Trying to.
No. I think from small acorns and all that.
Of course.
Excellent. It's we're coming to the end of the show. I promise you 40 minutes. There we go. Give me your 60-second spiel on why people should be heading over to back your project.
So I think it's a really fun all ages story that is designed for parents to read and enjoy along with their kids. It's a story about a group of pirate bears who sail the seven seas, protecting villages from evil pirates who would plunder and steal and attack every night. And it'll keep getting kind of bigger. So eventually they come up against a kind of wolf pack group of pirates, and then there's a sea monster down the road on the horizon, and bigger bads every arc. It gets a little bit bigger.
Who would be the Navy? If the bears are the pirates and the wolves and the foxes are the bad guys, there's got to be some cats in there somewhere. Cats are
no. Cats hate water. The cats would be the ground. Cats would be the military, or maybe air support or something like that.
So dogs like water. The dogs would be the Navy. Slip the dogs of war.
The dogs of war. I love it.
Feel free to write that down as well.
Hang on. Hold on, I'm going to type it
out. Right. If you want to check out the project and you want to back it, head over to thornycomics.com. It will redirect you straight away to the Kickstarter. And to be fair, that's a great way of doing it, because we all know how crazy Kickstarter addresses can be. Am I right?
Yeah, and that's the idea. I think I'm going to keep on updating that. So the thornycomics.com will always redirect to whatever I'm working on at the moment.
Perfect. If you want to keep up to date with other information, you can follow Jerry and Thorny Comics on social media. You've got your Insta there, and you've got your Facebook. There
yes,
you
sir.
go. No X's or Twitters for you, my friend.
No, sir.
Jerry, it's been absolutely fantastic speaking to you again. I'm sorry that I blanked and I could not remember. I apologize.
It's fine. It's fine. It's totally fine. You do this a lot. Too many people. Too many names.
Yeah, that's true. I take your comments graciously. Thank you very much. Right, that's it. We're done for another show. Check out Jerry's website. Check out the project. It looks great. It looks fun. What more do you want from an all ages book? Something you can enjoy with your kids. What more? It's just brilliant. Brilliant. Well done, Jerry. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for spending the time.
Of course. It was my pleasure.
Cool. That's it for another show. Don't forget to check out the UCPN for all your favorite shows. You saw it for earlier, The Crisis in the Toyverse, for all you figureheads. And yes, I still haven't got my Batman and Robin, Batman and Batgirl. Son of a gun. UK shipping, what can I say? If you like your comics of a certain age, don't forget to check out the Old Timers Comic Book Show. And for all you Marvel fans, it's a No Prize podcast. And DC is well served with the Definitive Crusade. There you go. Jerry, I've been absolutely blessed, man. I've thoroughly enjoyed speaking to you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Johnny. Really appreciate it.
Anytime, my friend. I've been your host, Johnny Machine Hughes. And as always, adios.
Visit undercovercapes.com for the latest and greatest podcasts via the Undercover Capes Podcast Network. Also visit our parent company website, comiccrusaders.com, all about comic pop culture.